Hello, it's Sarah from Hardcover Hearts, and I'm here today with my week of reading update. This is where I talk about the books that I read, the books that I'm currently reading, and what's on tap, potentially, for me to read for next week. So I completed 5 books this week, and I'm thrilled with what I read. The quality was great, the variety was really great, so I'm feeling pretty accomplished. So let's get to it. The first book I completed was A Lucky Man by Jamel Brinkley. This is a short story collection that was shortlisted for the National Book Award. I read this with my real life book club, Lydia and Nikki, and we all 3 of us found pieces to like in this, but holistically it didn't really gel. Now these are short stories, so they don't have to necessarily come together, but it just felt like I wasn't finding myself pulled back to this collection. Now the first story I think was very strong, but not all of the stories had that same merit. I'm interested in seeing what he does moving forward. I think he has a beautiful way of place, and I think he's got some talents, and I'll watch him moving forward. But this was just an okay read for me. Next up is How to Be Both by Ali Smith. Now this is a story that we've finished. I read this with 3 brilliant women, and I have to say, this type of book, Ali Smith's books, are the ones that you want to read with other people. There's so many layers. There's so many things to discover in her books that it really helps if you have someone else reading along with you who can pull that out for you. So How to Be Both, I don't want to speak too much about this because we haven't had our final wrap up, and I really want to leave that to our conversation, but I'll come back and tell you a little bit more about it at another time. Next up, so this was I talked a little bit about a specialized book recommendation list that I won as part of that I contributed to as part of a fundraiser. And I did a whole video about the entire recommendation list. This is the second in the book list that I actually read. This is the Copenhagen Trilogy first edition, the first one. It's called Childhood by Tove Ditlevsen. And look at that cover. This was beautiful. It was simple, richly rendered. It was introspective. It's a story of a childhood, a young girl who grows up poor in Copenhagen. She writes poetry. She loves to read, but she's not really sure of how to exert herself in the world, and is held back by family that doesn't believe in her. And it gave me so many Elena Ferranti, My Beautiful Friend feels, without the histrionics and drama that comes from a Neapolitan family. This is the Copenhagen version, so a little more reserved, a little more introspective, possibly. This was very good. I'll be looking forward to volumes 2 and 3. So excellent job, Bert. 2 for 2. The next thing I completed was They're There by Tommy Orange. I'm trying to whip through the finals of the BookTube prize before it's announced next week. I had They're There on just sitting here for so long, and I think I kept putting it off because I just assumed I would love it. It's set in Oakland. It's own voices. It's multiple perspectives which combine together, and I usually love all of that stuff. And while I liked this, I didn't love it, and so I'm a little perplexed by why. One of the things that I'm not sure if it was me or if it was the way I approached it is when I was trying to multitask, and so when I hit a certain point, I switched over to audio, and I think I lost some of the thread with the final scenes. And so when you get to these final climactic scenes, I didn't understand why they were happening. I saw the potential early, but the why never came through for me. So I think I might have to give this another look and at least go back in the physical copy and check out those sections. Because without that, this just feels like a okay book. Now, San Francisco has purchased these for their One City, One Book project, which they give out books and they have conversations with schools and teenagers and the like. I think this is an excellent book for that, just because there's so much here and there's so much that is unique to San Francisco and a part of the Bay Area that we don't see. And when I say San Francisco, I mean the Bay Area. So yeah, so it was just that okay. I'll go back and I'll double check on those penultimate scenes. But let me know if you read it and if maybe my reading is correct. Did you understand why the finale happened the way it did? Let me know in the comments below. And then lastly, this isn't really a book, but I'm going to add it here. Because it came through my library. I did the great courses on Victorian Britain. And I thought it was really, really time well spent. What I've been trying to do is just kind of get into some of the deeper stories, some of the more nuanced things that have happened during Victoria's reign, because I wanted to tee myself up for Victober. There are a lot of times where my knowledge of the Victorian era is based on pop culture, based on what I've read, all of that. And I wanted to go a little deeper. And so when I saw the great courses available, I jumped on it. I finished all 36 lessons. And I have to say, I did learn a lot. So I highly recommend, if you have access to the great courses, this one was a good one. So that's what I completed. As you can see, it was a really well-rounded bunch of books. And now let me tell you what I'm currently reading. So, still making progress in Ducks. This is Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellmann. So this is very meditative. It's very introspective. It's stream of conscience. And what I found is that I can't read this like other books. I can't binge on it the way I do other books. So I have to take it in chunks at a time. So I'm doing a buddy read of this with 2 other people, and we all seem to be in the similar boat. This is really good. We're all liking it, but it's not something that we can just binge through. So I'll keep reading this. I'm going to try to devote a certain amount of time every single day to at least coming back and making progress. So we'll see, but I am enjoying it very much so far. And then the other thing that I'm doing coming off the great courses is I'm listening to an audiobook that I found at the library called The Victorian City, Everyday Life in Dicken's London. And this is by Judith Flanders. So this is so good because I'm about to read the Pickwick Papers for Victober, and I wanted a little bit more, still trying to team myself up. This is great because it really focuses on Dickens and Dickens' writing and what that reflects about Victorian London at that time, which is fantastic. And so they've already talked about super interesting things like how loud the streets were. And that many times in Dickens' writing, he has the character step into like an alleyway or a different side road just to be able to have a conversation. I never would have thought of that. It never dawned on me that was a thing. So super excited. I'm only into chapter 2, but I'm going to continue that before Victober starts. And then that leads up to my Mood Reading Roulette. And there is a ton here. So I'll link to my Victober choices. But basically, I'm going to start the Pickwick Papers. And then also later, I'm going to start the Pickwick Papers. And I might start a Trollope. I still have not decided. I'm leaning toward the Warden because it's small. It's smaller. However, the way we were sounds like it might be an easier entry. We'll see. I think at a certain point you just have to jump in. And that might be what I do, is just jump in with the Warden. So there's that. There's also, this weekend, I missed the entire week. This is gone with the book week. This is where Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventure has come up with this fantastic idea to read literature that's set after Victorian, and I think it's Edwardian. And I'm super down for this. So I have looked through all of my books, and I have 2 that I'd like to get to. This is a Persephone copy that I just recently found of Miss Buncle's book by D.E. Stevenson. And look at this. They have the wonderful bookmark, and then the end papers are just fantastic. I just love Persephone books. So I think I'm going to try to jump on this. I hear it's really fun and it just zips by. There's another fun read that I might try this weekend, and it's Georgette Hare's Death in the Stocks. Now, I've read Georgette Hare romance, and I was a little nonplussed. It was a little too prim and proper. I like a little spicier romance. So the kisses on the inner wrist was just while giving your hand to a gentleman was not doing it for me. I could see the allure, but it wasn't for me. But I've heard that her mysteries are great, so very excited. The print is really big. I think I'll fly through it, so that's a potential for this weekend. And then the last thing I need to read before the BookTube prize is Aminatta Forna's Happiness. Look how beautiful that cover is. It is really lovely. So I have yet to read this. I need to get to this because I like to go into the BookTube prize knowing and having read everything that's being discussed for the final. So that's on deck as well. So yeah, a lot of great options. What are you reading? What have you read? Do you have any opinions about any of the books that I read already? I would love to know in the comments below. And hope you have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Bye.